What's going on, everyone? Only Sports back with another video. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about Daniel Jones and whether or not the New York Giants should re-sign their quarterback. And of course, this is a very interesting topic, and I think Giants fans are pretty mixed about it. And I'm going to be giving my thoughts. And, obviously I'm doing a little series here on this, type of video. Of course, I did the Saquon one. I think that was my last one I did. I know I did Nick Gates before. I've done a few players. So Daniel Jones will be the next one, of course. I'm also going to start free agent, targets. I've done trade targets. So, I'm gonna carry on here though with the in-house guys for the Giants and should they re-sign each player. This is Daniel Jones, who is a very interesting topic, and it's pretty mixed. I think most fans want Jones back, as do I, but I think we obviously all understand the business side of it, and of course, Jones had a terrific season. For me, he entered the top 12 quarterbacks at least. I think when you win as many games as Jones did, I think you've got to enter that conversation, and I think Jones has done a great job. He did everything this season, that the Giants asked him to do, and the Giants coaching staff and upper management, the front office has repeatedly said that Jones has done about everything you could ask him to do. So that's important. When the quarterback is staying on the field healthy, that's the number one thing, because over the past 2 years previous to this, he's had some injury concerns, but I think now being on the field, of course, he didn't play the last game of the year, because quite frankly, the game didn't matter at all. So that's good, and we've seen Jones make improvements as the years have gone along, which is very good, no question about that. But taking a look at his numbers, in the 16 starts, he had a 9-6-1 record, with a 67.2 completion percentage, 3,205 yards, 15 touchdown passes, just 5 interceptions, a 1.1 interception percentage, which led the entire NFL. So that is a very good number right there. He played turnover, mistake-free football. He threw for over 200 yards per game on average. He was sacked 44 times for 243 yards, which is concerning, but that's obviously on the O-line. Now, one of the most interesting stats for me, and a really good one, was game-winning drives. Daniel Jones had 5 game-winning drives, and they were all in the first, 6 or 7 games or so. It was ridiculous. He was just going on a game-winning drive after game-winning drive. So for Jones, he had 5 game-winning drives, and he had 3 in his previous 3 seasons, which is very good. Very good. And then his comebacks led by quarterbacks. He had 4, and in his previous 3 years, he had 2. He was very good. There's no question about that. His advanced stats, of course, we could get into all of that, but it would get complicated. Air yards, all that good stuff. But Jones was very good this season. There's no question about it. And then, of course, looking at the rushing yards, because that's huge. When looking at Daniel Jones, of course, for rushing yards, he had 708 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, 57 first downs out of his 120 rushes. And on average, he ran for 5.9 yards per carry, which is very good. He had 7.5 rushing yards rushing attempts per game. So Jones was obviously, he was very explosive and kind of a two-way quarterback with that running ability. The RPO was a factor. So that was very good there. It was very, very good. And I think that's important, of course, for Jones. I think the fumble problem really got better, really did. And for him, I think just continuing to Kind of have that dual threat for Jones is important. But now getting into the contract stuff, he is 25 years of age, and he's going to be 26 at the start of next season. Still very young, and for Jones, I think, I think you got to re-sign this guy. I think you got to get him a receiver. I think you got to get him a number one receiver, and I think the Giants will do that this offseason, whether that's via the trade or via the draft, because I don't think that there's a number one option in free agency. I don't believe so. I think there's some good options, but I don't think there's any number ones there. So I think the draft or trade is where you're going to get value for a number one receiver. And I think that's important, very important for Daniel Jones. I think you need to get him that, but Jones did what he could have done, and I think you've got to really value that. I think, looking at other quarterbacks and some of the situations there, and did they really do much better than Jones? Now, a lot of people say, he had less passing touchdowns than games played, but, you got to look at who he's passing to, right? That's very important. And he had, 22 total touchdowns, and I'd rather have Jones have 22 total touchdowns with 5 interceptions than 32 and 10 interceptions, right? So, because you look at the very good, or at least the elite franchise quarterbacks in this league, their numbers this year, they were very good, no question about it. Like, I'm not saying Daniel Jones is Herbert, at least now. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Herbert takes a step back and Daniel Jones takes a step forward. But, Herbert obviously was second in the league in passing yards, so, that is very good. Daniel Jones' completion percentage, by the way, is very good. And in each category, he continued to get better and better and better. In completion percentage, in yards, in interceptions, he was very good there. In rushing, he continued to get better. So that's just very important there because you see that he's getting better every single year. But looking at Herbert, he had 25 touchdowns in total, and he had 10 interceptions. I'd much rather have Jones with 22 total touchdowns and 5 interceptions. There's no question about that. And not to mention, he also had 3 fumbles lost. I think Jones just had 1 fumble lost. So that's the comparison there with Herbert. You go look at a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's I don't think he's a very good quarterback, but I think he's pretty good. He had 31 total passing touchdowns, but 14 interceptions. I'd rather have Jones with a third of his interceptions and 22 touchdowns. So I think that's very, and I'm probably gonna have a Kirk Cousins Daniel Jones comparison video because there's still a lot of people that think Kirk Cousins is better, and I want to touch on that. But that's for a video another day. And then the last one, you look at Geno Smith. I mean, he had 15 turnovers, 11 interceptions, and 4 lost fumbles, and he had 31 touchdowns, right? So that's where you want Jones is 22 and 5 interceptions, and I think 6 total turnovers. So, I mean, I think Jones did exactly what you could ask for, and I think that's important. I think that's very important. I think Jones is, I think he's entered that top 12 conversation. I really do. I think if you can get the guy some weapons and receivers, not just Barkley, but get him a guy like a T. Higgins or get him a guy like a, one of those very good receivers. I think he's going to be undoubtedly a top 10 quarterback in the league. But now getting into the numbers for Jones, I think it's going to be $35 million a year. I think that's his value. I think that's his market, and someone could be willing to pay him more. It's just a matter of what Jones will take. 3 to 4 years, I think, is where Jones is going to sign, right? He's not going to get 6 years, 7 years. I think the Giants will probably give him a 4-year deal with the ability to get out after 2 years if, Jones starts to go south, and then you could draft that quarterback, But I think 4 years, in the neighborhood of probably, let's say, $130 million a year. That's $32.5 a year. I think that's probably where Jones's value is. I wouldn't pay him, I wouldn't give him $150 for 4 years, which is $38 million a year. I think that's a little bit too steep. But if the Giants, kind of, build it up and kind of play with it in a way, and structure it in a way that, it kind of helps, for the long term. But I think any way you do this contract, it's going to be a pretty hefty contract. It's going to be a big payday for Jones, and I think he deserves it. I'm not going to, take that away from him. And I think the franchise tag is definitely an option if the Giants can't get to agreement with Jones. I think they have to kind of sign either one of him or Barkley before the guys hit the open market. Because if they're both unsigned when it's time for them to hit the open market, one of them will not be a Giant, because I think they franchise one, and then the other one I think could very well walk, because someone will pay both these guys their money. So I think for Jones and Barkley, I think it's important to get it over with sooner than later. But if not, then the franchise tag's always there. But I think for Jones, I think it's probably 4 years, 130. I think that's his range. Probably give him 70 or 80 million guaranteed, and you structure it in a way where it's not all off the cap. He has some bonuses, signing bonus, all that good stuff. So if it's 35 million, let's say, per year on average, it won't come out to that exactly on the cap. So I think that the Giants could definitely structure it in a way, and I think Joe Shane will. He's very smart. You look at him and Brandon Brown, where they came from, the Bills and the Eagles. They have great rosters, and they have still cap space. So I think that either way, I think this will be a good contract. I think they'll put it in a way that is very good for the team, and it's not as much as it seems in terms of coming off the cap. So I think that they'll structure that in a good way. But for Jones, I would absolutely re-sign him, and I think he will be re-signed. I think he will be back, whether that's via the franchise tag and then sign him after that while he's on the tag. You just kind of buy some time, or whether that's right away. I think the more likely route, I think they'll probably have to franchise him and take a little more time, and they'll probably get Saquon done earlier. But we'll see how it all plays out, and I think Jones will be back as a New York Football Giant. Not just in 2023, but even beyond that, and I couldn't be happier to say that. But guys, that's all I got in this video. You guys let me know down in the comment section your thoughts on Daniel Jones. What do you think about him and his contract extension? Like I said, I really think that he'll be back at around a 4-year deal worth 130 or so million. That's my prediction. I think he'll be back, and I think that's the right decision. I would want him back. But you guys let me know down in the comment section your thoughts. Do you want him back? Let me know all that good stuff down in the comment section. As always, please leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We'll see you guys on the next video. And as always, let's go Giants.